konbanwa. Welcome to the very first episode of my channel. I'm Rosetta, and today I'm inviting you into a little space between cultures, and maybe between hearts. Yes, love. We're going to explore those small, delicate moments that reveal how dating across cultures can sometimes feel like you're speaking the same language, but playing by different rules. And not just the obvious things, but the subtle ones. The gestures, the silences, the things that feel perfectly normal in one place, and quietly surprising in another. And if you've dated in Japan, or even you're just curious, you might find some of these familiar. Or maybe absolutely unexpected. And before we start, just a little bit about me. I was mostly raised in Japan, but I've also spent some time abroad. So what I share comes from personal experience and some quiet observations as well. So without further ado, let's slip beneath the surface. So the first thing I'd like to cover is planning. In Japan, it's considered polite to check someone's schedule well in advance. You can make plans days, even weeks ahead of time, because people here like to know what's coming up. And asking to meet up on the same day, that doesn't usually feel like a pleasant surprise. And in fact, it might come across as a little inconsiderate, as if you're assuming they have nothing better to do, or that they've dropped everything just for you. And that's how they might take it. But on the other hand, in many Western countries, people are more spontaneous. A last minute invitation, like, hey, wanna grab a drink? Can be totally fine. And if you're both free and in the mood, why not? But if you ever want to take someone out on a date in Japan, it's probably best to set the time and place ahead of time. It's not just about being polite. It shows that you respect their time and that you were thinking about them long before the date even started. So now let's move on to rendezvous in Japan. And it's very common to meet up at a station, especially in Tokyo, where the transportation system is incredibly efficient and convenient. Privacy is also deeply valued here, so having someone show up at your door, especially in the early stages of dating, can feel a little over the top. But in many other countries, I've noticed that guys often offer to pick you up, and it's such a sweet and chivalrous gesture. But in Japan, that kind of offer isn't really necessary. It's more like a quiet, oh, I wouldn't want to trouble you. So instead of door-to-door pickup, you'll often meet halfway at a cafe, a station, or somewhere in between. It's just a different rhythm, a more subtle kind of care, you could say. Okay, so now let's get to who's doing the chasing. In Japan, it's actually pretty normal for girls to make the first move. Take Valentine's Day, for example. Here is the girls who give chocolates to the guys, not the other way around. And then a month later, on White Day, the boys return the favor. So pouring your heart out first isn't really seen as strange. A girl confessing her feelings or even asking the guy out is definitely not considered desperate. Here, it doesn't really matter who makes the first move. And now, in many other parts of the world, even though feminism is shifting the dynamics, there's still this lingering idea that men should do the chasing. And sure, girls can drop hints, send signals, but actually making the first move? That's still seen as bold, right? And that's one of the biggest differences I've noticed. Now, let's talk about who pays the bill. And it's always a bit of a controversial topic, right? These days, among younger people, or you could call them Gen Zs, in Japan, splitting the bill is becoming more and more common. But it's not always a strict 50-50. Often, he will cover dinner, and she might treat him to coffee or dessert afterward. And it's less about money and more about balance. You see, in Japanese culture, there's this quiet sense of grace. We try not to burden others. So if somebody pays for everything, some of us feel a little guilty, like we're taking too much. So offering to pay, even just a part, isn't just about manners. It's a way of showing, I appreciate this and I respect your effort. And for some women, paying for her share also helps protect their boundaries. Like, if you're not sure you want a second date, you won't feel pressured or guilty for saying no when they ask you out on a second date. And back in our parents' generation in Japan, it was naturally expected of men to get the bill. So I guess the culture is definitely shifting. And even in other countries, I believe guys are still often expected to pay. But I've also noticed a lot of women prefer to go Dutch as well. So there's really no one size fits all, but it depends on the people and the vibe. There are little signs, though, hints to tell if a Japanese girl would like to be treated or split, but that's a story for another time. So, we've touched on a few things about dating culture in Japan, and of course, when I say Japan, the West, or any other place, I know there's so much variety within them. And every country, every culture, and honestly, every person is different. So I cannot speak for everyone. What I'm sharing here, they're just patterns I've noticed, not strict rules. And in part 2, we'll dive a little deeper, like what's okay and what's not when it comes to touch. And what happens when no one ever says, I like you out loud. So if that sounds like your kind of mystery to unravel, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, good night, and sweet dreams.